everybody, it's Brock and we got a brand new episode of All About. We're doing a deep dive into choosing the right cleanup crew for your saltwater tank. Now, what is a cleanup crew? This is a group of inverts like snails and crabs and even fish that you would add to your aquarium in order to naturally clean your tank and maintain the health of the aquarium by eating algae, leftover foods, detritus, pests, you name it. They are essential for keeping the tank's ecosystem balanced and reducing manual maintenance that you have to do throughout the month. We're going to split the video up into 3 sections: algae control, waste management, and lastly, pest and parasite control. This is going to help you understand which invert or fish you need to tackle the specific problem in your tank. Thank you all for being here, and let's dive in. First up is algae control. So you'll want to begin by figuring out which type of algae you're dealing with. If it's a green in color, soft and stringy, can be short, close to the rock, or long flowing strands if allowed to overgrow, you're probably dealing with hair algae. Snails love eating hair algae off the rocks, specifically the turbo snails, astrea snails, and seraph snails. Hermit crabs also love grazing on the hair algae wherever it grows. They use their skills to crawl around the rocks, on the power heads, and the filtration system to clean it off. You'll be amazed at the places they can get to in your tank with enough determination. Blue-legged hermits and the scarlets are some of my favorites. Emerald crabs and Sally Lightfoot crabs are also good choices that will dine on algae throughout the day. The only issue I see with the current selection is they tend to like hair algae that's short. Sometimes the big clumps of algae that flow in the current, the critters just won't go after it in my experience. But the one invert I see handle the job no matter how bad the algae has gotten are urchins. They are some beasts to have as lawnmowers in your tank. Tuxedos are one of my favorite. You also have the venomous long-spine black urchin, the pincushions, the pencil urchins. All are going to do the same job of eating that algae all over the tank no matter where it's growing. There's also fish that like to graze on algae. Those are going to be your tangs, angelfish, and blennies. You can catch them picking on the rocks all day long, looking for every bit of algae they can get. Now maybe you're seeing some smooth, round bubble-like sacs that are very small, various shades of greens that almost look translucent at times. You could be spotting some bubble algae in the tank. They can form singly or in clusters on the rocks, sand, and even on your equipment, causing issues with your power heads or intakes. Typically growing in more shaded areas with less current, they can spread quickly if not dealt with. The one and only invert I've seen go after bubble algae is the emerald crab. They are the best worker to handle the job for you. You can watch the crabs use their claws to constantly scrape away at the bubble algae, and eventually there'll be none left. They eat it very cleanly, because if you go in there and start popping all these bubbles, that just releases it more into the tank and causes them to grow even more rapidly. So it's nice to have one of those natural eaters that can take care of the problem for you and eradicate it completely. If you're noticing a red to purple slimy mat that covers your rocks, coral, and sand, and looks to be trapping bubbles inside it, you probably have run into cyanobacteria. While your typical hermit crabs and turbo snails usually won't mess with it unless there's algae kind of mixed in with it, there are some specific inverts that have been known to eat it more often. Those are the Nacerius snails, a great one. We like to call them the zombie snails. They come out of the sand like an arm breaking out. It's super cool to see. They stay primarily on the sand bed, so not on your live rock or glass. The seraph snails are another choice. These are very small snails that have a similar shell, kind of like a hermit crab. These will be able to get on all areas of the tank to help clean that cyano off. The other two are the fighting conch and the sea cucumbers, but in the same case, these two are mostly dwell in the sand bed. So if cyano is there, they would potentially eat it, but they're not going to venture on your live rock much. Cyano is a tough battle to fight with natural cleaners. You really have to pair it with some chemicals like ChemiClean, and then after you get it cleaned up manually, you can let those inverts get in there and clean up the rest for you. You may be noticing some brown algae around the tank, and there's two that look a lot alike. One is diatoms and one is dinos. Diatoms are going to look like a brown dust covering your sand, rocks, and equipment even. Dinos, on the other hand, are going to look a bit more like cyano. It's like this snot-like film on everything with air bubbles trapped inside it. At times, I see breakouts of both of these at the same time, so it can be kind of hard to figure out which one do I take care of first. For diatoms, these can occur a lot at the beginning of a saltwater tank, especially whenever you're a beginner first starting out. there's plenty of inverts that can go after it. My two favorites to recommend are the sand-sifting starfish and the fighting conch. These constantly roam around that sand bed, stirring it around, eating any algae that's growing on it. And for the diatoms that are growing on your rock, I'd recommend hermit crabs again. You put a dozen in there and they will go to work for you. Pretty much all the inverts we've mentioned will go after diatoms. It's one of those algae that's in all of their daily diets. Dinos, on the other hand, can be a little trickier. There are still some inverts that can eat it. They are the seraph snails, the Necarius snails, Crocus snails, sea cucumbers, and the fighting conch. The issue I usually see though is they only want to eat dinos that have just started. They don't want to go after the dinos that are an inch tall. Those large clumps usually aren't getting eaten by them, so you'll usually have to suck out those big clumps of it with your siphon and then let the inverts come in and clean up the rest. Now let's get into waste management. So what is it referring to when someone mentions waste? This is going to be uneaten foods, detritus, and decaying organic matter in the tank. One of my top picks for eating leftover foods is the cleaner shrimp. You'll notice as they get used to your aquarium, they're going to start coming out when your other fish come out to eat. Plus, they go behind the rocks, they get into all these upside down caves looking for every little bit of food that they can get, whether it's sunk to the bottom or it's in the back of the tank. These will go after all that leftover food that your fish usually will leave alone once it gets past them. Another shrimp that has similar personality are the peppermint shrimps and the fire shrimps. For ones that strictly go after leftovers on the sand bed, I'd recommend the sand-sifting starfish and the zombie snails, also a conch. All those do really well to keep that sand bed clean, especially if you have a white sand bed and you're trying to keep it white all the time. Those are a good one to have in there that constantly is sifting around. The zombie snails are especially cool because they're usually a nocturnal scavenger, but once they get used to your feeding schedule, they'll actually start bursting out whenever you feed your other fish to come eat some food too. You'll notice pretty much any invert in the list is going to clean up leftover food. Your hermit crabs, the snails, cucumbers, they all love it. Another one you can try that's actually a fish are gobies. Sand-sifting gobies will constantly scoop up sand and search for food, which is keeping the sand moving, it's keeping it sifted, and a lot of times will keep that brown coloration away. Now, some gobies will find caves and make burrows in one specific area around the tank, so that area of the sand will be clean, but other times the other areas of the sand will be brown again. If you're wanting a goby that's going to like to explore and go everywhere and not get so claustrophobic in a cave, I'd recommend the diamond goby. They're one that loves to go everywhere around the tank and sift that sand. Now we're going to jump into pest and parasite control. Very common hitchhiker that you'd run into at the beginning, middle, and end of your saltwater hobby are aptasias. Little glass anemones that grow on the rocks and can quickly reproduce around the tank. Bad thing about them is they can sting your corals. If you are noticing these in your tank, the natural predator is a peppermint shrimp. They will have a heyday in your tank if you got a lot of them. One peppermint shrimp can demolish a colony of aptasias in a week. Copperband butterfly fish are another one that love to eat these. The main thing to remember is once they run out of these aptasias to eat, you need to supplement it with something. Another common hitchhiker you might see that looks like a hard tube sticking off your rocks with these stringy white spiderweb looking mats hanging out at the end of it are vermitid snails. These have a predator called the bumblebee snails. So bumblebee snails are really small snails and they'll go in there and get into that tube and eat the vermitids. You usually need a good amount of bumblebees to take care of the problem for you because they don't do it very quickly. And sometimes the bumblebees will start eating other algae instead of the snails. So it kind of gets tricky with them, but if you are running into a bad vermitid problem, bumblebees are a good one to try. Another common hitchhiker is the bristleworm. If you notice these brown to red colored worms with little spikes all over their bodies, coming out of the sand bed at night looking for food. Sometimes they're brave enough to be out and during the day. You're going to be wanting to take care of these bristleworms so that they don't overrun your tank. The coral banded shrimp and the arrow crab are two really great defenders from bristleworms. They'll use their claws to grab the worms in tight spaces and cut them up small enough to eat. The other pests are flatworms. These can really hurt your corals, and fish are the best bet for getting rid of them. I usually recommend different kinds of wrasse, like the 6-line wrasse, Melanoris wrasse, and the yellow chorus wrasse. They'll hover close above the live rock, nipping at any creatures they can get, one of them being obviously the flatworm. These wrasse will also go after other hitchhikers around the tank, like those bristleworms. So kind of a jack of all trades to have a wrasse in your tank, especially if you have a reef tank, because they really keep things in order so that your corals can flourish. You also can have a crew in there to help prevent the buildup of parasites on your fish. So whether it's ick or maybe flukes that's happening, there are some you can get that will set up cleaning stations around the tank for your fish to come to and essentially get a car wash on their scales. The cleaner shrimp and the fire shrimp are really good about doing this. I've caught my cleaner shrimp riding on my tang across the tank and also acting as a toothbrush for my goby's mouth. Super cool to watch. Wrasse can also act as a way to keep your fish clean. The 6-line wrasse and the chorus wrasse have been known to keep the tangs clean, but the wrasse I've seen do the best overall is the cleaner wrasse. They will constantly be on a fish, cleaning them off, inspecting them for any parasites that might be on them. The only kind of trick to it is sometimes it can be hard to get them to eat other stuff because they're so keen on just eating parasites off the fish. So at this point, you've figured out what the problem is in your tank and which inverts and fish you want to create your cleanup crew in the aquarium. Your next question might be, how many do you need? Now, there is a common answer out there of 1 invert per 3 gallons. It's an easy answer, but not the best one in every scenario. I wouldn't want to add 25 hermit crabs to my 75-gallon reef right now because there's just not enough algae for them to eat. They would wipe out everything in a week. So what you want to do is decide how bad your issue is. I'll give you an example with mine. It's a 75-gallon reef and it had a very bad hair algae outbreak. I added 12 hermit crabs, 2 turbo snails, and 4 astrea snails, and that was plenty for them to take care of the problem. Maybe you have a 30-gallon tank that's exploded with diatoms that you're trying to take care of. You could do 6 hermit crabs, a sand sifting starfish, and a handful of those astrea snails would do the trick. There's a lot of different scenarios you can run, and I'd be more than happy to give you my opinion on the issue you're dealing with. You can put it in the comments down below or reach out to me on social media. I'd be happy to help. The biggest thing you want to keep in mind is once they take care of your issue, whichever one it might have been, will you have to supplement their diet? Are they going to perish in the tank, or are you going to move them out to a different tank? So for hermits and snails, they'll be fine. They're going to find food all throughout the day, whether it's algae on the glass, leftover food that you're feeding your fish every day, they'll be fine. For the ones that get a little bit more specific on their diet, like peppermint shrimp that really need aptasia in their diet, once they eradicate all of them, there's a chance they go after your other corals if they aren't eating the food that you're feeding your fish. So that can be dangerous. Same with emerald crabs. They are the best for bubble algae, but once they run out of that algae and then they end up cleaning all the rest of the algae, they might start nipping at your zoas. So my recommendation right now is if you've watched this video, you figured out which issue you're having in the tank, you know what kind of crew you want in your tank, go watch the in-depth video of each of them to make sure they're the right fit for your tank. Pairing up a cleaning crew with some manual cleaning from yourself will have your tank looking spotless. Get your hands dirty, use that siphon to suck out some of the larger portions, and then let the cleanup crew handle the rest. I promise you, you will see some great results from it. I really hope this video helped you out and is going to get you closer to a clean saltwater tank. So at any point you're having issues, reach out. I'll be more than happy to help. The other thing is we have all about videos for all the inverts that you've heard about in this video, as well as some of these specific issues like how to deal with hair algae and how to deal with cyanobacteria and how to use ChemiClean. All those videos are out there. I'll put them down in the comments somewhere so you can easily click on them so you can see what kind of information you can learn from those more in-depth videos. If you have any insight yourself, let us know about it in the comments. The more we learn from each other, the better off we'll be in this hobby. As always, stay safe, be kind, and I'll see y'all later.